A high school newspaper article sparked national controversy last month over freedom of speech and feminism, all before it was even published. Last week, the Bruin Voice published an article titled "Risky Business" on its website. The piece highlights the struggles and triumphs of a Bear Creek high school student who started a career in sex work to earn a living. The school district initially pushed to block the article from being published. They have since said that they do not endorse the piece. Joining us now, the teacher who oversees the Bruin Voice, Kathi Duffel. So, Kathi, we know this isn't your first time fighting the school district on behalf of your students and their stories. Why was this one so important for you to allow this story to be published?
Well, I think what made this story different was that the normal procedure would be for the principal to engage in prior review. And this was different in that our principal did not engage in prior review. In fact, she knows the law. She knows Ed Code 48907, and she trusts me. So this prior review request, an attempt, came from the superintendent. And that was a surprise to us because there had to be a reason that the superintendent got wind of the story, got involved in the story, and that kind of set the ball rolling.
So walk us through what happened. How did the district really find out about this specific story?
Well, like most ways, it was a leak from the administration office, unfortunately, and that led to me receiving a letter on April 11th from the superintendent, Dr. Kathi Washer, in which she grossly mischaracterized the focus and the intent of this story, and she said to me that we were not to publish the story until the district, she herself, had reviewed it, and if I did not submit to that request, I would be subject to discipline up to and including dismissal.
Including dismissal. What were their concerns really about publishing this story?
Well, that's a good question. When the superintendent gets involved, you have to kind of backtrack and ask yourself, to whom does the superintendent report to? Well, the superintendent reports to the school board. And the school board members, I'm sure by now, must be asking themselves, who on the board has a direct connection to Caitlin Fink via, in this case, her parents, who are the most vocal in trying to suppress this story. And so I'm hoping the board is asking themselves this question and looking into what that connection is.
So pushing to fight for the story could have led to your suspension. How were you able to win this fight against the administrators?
All the credit really goes to the students and the Student Press Law Center, who got right on board right from the beginning. They found us an attorney, Frank Lamonte, who's a senior fellow, found Matthew Kate in San Francisco, who agreed to take the case pro bono. And then it was a matter of the attorneys exchanging letters, many letters, in fact, and the district trying some kind of last-minute ditch efforts to try to stop the story. For example, I received a letter from Dr. Washer on April 23rd saying she had this confidential FERPA-protected letter that, had I read it, would be subject to basically silencing me and silencing anything in the story. So we refuse to take that bait, but we will be pursuing, of course, Caitlin's interest in that letter because of FERPA. She has every right to see that letter. But it bothers me that the district would, of course, accept information from parents from who she is estranged and has not lived with since December.
What's been the response since your article was published online?
It has been, for the most part, very supportive. The local press, the professional press. I think most intelligent people are able to separate the topic of pornography with the free speech fight that we are engaged in at this point, because this has led the district to sort of view themselves as having carte blanche permission to give prior review anytime, any place, anywhere for any story. And that is just simply not what the law says.
We wanted to also have your students on, but many of them are taking AP exams at this moment. Yes. But I want to ask you, what have they had to say about this fight? We know journalism in the U.S. is facing a great deal of criticism. What do you tell your students about the current state of journalism, and what do you think they've learned from this experience?
Oh, I think this is the best civics lesson. I mean, this is Civics 101 for the students. This is free speech. And not only that, the students understand that what happens when you have something like prior review and what chilling effect does that have on free speech. I mean, a lot of people might say, what's the big deal in letting the district read this? But imagine if every reporter in this country had to submit their story to some government official before it was allowed to be published. You can imagine the chilling effect that that would have on free speech. And students understand that. District officials do not, but students understand how chilling that would be.
Kathi Duffel, I'm so grateful you found the time to speak with us. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.